Is it time for a total ban on cigarettes? Get your calls in now. 0207 862 2222 is the number. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is considering introducing measures that would ban the next generation from ever being able to buy cigarettes. So Sunak is looking at anti-smoking measures that are similar to the laws in New Zealand, which include a ban on selling tobacco to anyone born after 2009. So if these laws are implemented by 2026, anyone aged 15 and under would never be able to buy a cigarette. Downing Street has not denied that Mr Sunak is considering adopting a more strict approach to smoking. But is this the right way to tackle the issue? First of all, do we have any smokers on the panel?
I used to, because I'm a child of the 90s when everyone thought it was cool, and now I realise that it is the least cool thing to do in the world.
Well, I shall start with you then. Is this the right way to approach it?
Yes, there is nothing good about cigarettes. There's nothing to be gained.
What made you start then, do you mind me asking?
I thought it was cool. And I try desperately to be cool all the time. That hasn't got, thanks, OK, thanks.
Well, I think Cherry's realised that now, and that's why the cigarettes have drifted.
But I wish I'd never smoked. I really hope my kids never touch it. There's nothing positive about it at all, except for it makes some people a lot of money. I mean, it should go.
Cristo.
OK, well, I don't smoke. I've never really smoked. I tried a few times, really tried to get addicted because I thought it would be cool. I really gave it a good old go.
I get that. I totally get that.
Where did this illusion that this smelly little stick...
It also gives you something to do, you know, when you're sat on your own and, you know, waiting for someone.
Get a hobby,
yeah, or get friends that will meet you.
Have you ever smoked?
Never smoked.
You've never had a cigarette, not one?
I've tried a cigarette, did not like it, did not enjoy it, burned the back of my throat, and I thought, not for me, thank you.
And also, you can always tell if I'm very, very drunk because I do then think I smoke, and I smoke really badly because I make such a meal of it that people know I'm a non-smoker who's just giving it a go. I've got splinters on my bum because I'm a little tiny bit on the fence on this. I think I'm erring towards this being a bad idea, and I will tell you why. I agree smoking's not productive, helpful or anything, but there are many things in our lives that are not that. You know, I don't think rock climbing is particularly productive or helpful.
I literally went rock climbing yesterday.
Kill yourself.
I was fine.
Drinking, there are many things that aren't great for our health, but in a society where you have the choice, you should be mature enough to be able to make that choice. I feel like smokers are quite persecuted now as things are. I mean, you've even got councils banning smoking outside now, which is ridiculous. But also, most importantly, if this comes in and they keep increasing the age of smoking, will we really have a situation in 2048 where a 30-year-old will go to a shop and say, I'd like some cigarettes, please, and the shopkeeper says, I'm sorry, no, at 30, you're not allowed to buy any.
Well, that's exactly what we'll
40,
well,
you know, a 40-year-old.
The industry will collapse completely and we'll be done with it. I mean, it's the biggest cause of preventable illness in England. 5 million people still smoke in the country, and there's 75,000 GP appointments could be freed up each month if they put an end to smoking. I mean, the stats are incredible. 74,000 deaths.
But they pay for their treatment.
I mean, the stats are extraordinary. You feel better, you feel healthier, you feel more wealthy, you don't smell like an ashtray.
But is it for the state to tell you that? I get that, and that's why I'm a bit torn.
Because this is an addiction. Often people, if you said
so
to
is
someone...
alcohol. Should we ban alcohol?
But... It's a good point. I mean, there's problems around alcohol as well.
But should we ban it for everyone?
But
I mean,
you
that's
can
the
have
problem.
a glass of wine in the evening and enjoy it and it not be a problem. You cannot have even one solitary cigarette without it being detrimental to your health.
Interesting. On that point, let's bring in somebody else. Joining us now is the head of lifestyle economics from the Institute of Economic Affairs. This is Christo Snowdon. Now, why are you against the ban on cigarettes after hearing what Cherry's had to say?
Well, there are several reasons. I mean, fundamentally, I believe that adults should be free to choose whether they want to smoke or not. There are also practical reasons. I mean, the government would forego about £14 billion in tax revenue ultimately. And then there are just practical reasons. I mean, prohibition leads to black markets. This is an unusual kind of prohibition insofar as it's incremental, but it would lead to incremental black markets. Initially, it would start off with, 24-year-olds buying 23-year-olds cigarettes, which would all be a bit weird, but as time went on, if this continued for decades without a total prohibition being brought in, which in practice is probably what they do, that's what they're trying to soften us up for, then you would just lead to the entire market being illicit. It's not going to stop everybody smoking. Prohibition doesn't stop people doing things. it would just lead to the kind of criminality we see with the war on drugs.
Yes, but it would probably reduce the numbers of people that are smoking, therefore save the NHS money, potentially free up, as Cherry said, some GP appointments, which are much needed at the moment, and just generally better for our health. It is the government's responsibility to essentially keep us safe. That's why laws are in place. So this seems like a sort of sensible move, and then just combat the black market, surely.
I think that's an appalling attitude, if I may say so. It's not at all the government's responsibility to patronise us and nanny us in that way. It's for adults, and we are talking here about adults, to make their own choices. And smokers more than pay their way in terms of the NHS. Smokers actually subsidise non-smokers by to the tune of billions of pounds through tax.
The government does guide us and does tell us about some of, crack and heroin are not available in a shop because they're so dangerous to your health. I know that my children will be less likely to try cigarettes if it's not available, harder to get, illegal. They're just not going to go that extra mile. Yes, of course, some people will, but you can't encourage people to be healthy. You can't not put this policy in place because there's going to be a black market. But Christopher, to say that that's not what the government's there for, shall we just obliterate all laws then? Why rule that we have to wear seatbelts? Why have laws make age limits to drinking? Why, shouldn't we all be able to just make our own decisions then?
Well, if we want to live in a free society, and perhaps not all of you do, then we have laws that are designed to protect other people. We don't have laws that penalise people who are making free adult choices. That is the road to perdition, in my view. And there are laws that I don't think we should have. I don't think cannabis should be illegal, for example. But logically, as has already been mentioned, you should be saying we want to have alcohol illegal, we want to have motorbikes illegal, anything that potentially poses risk to health, any kind of sugary drinks and fatty foods should be illegal, because apparently adults are not trusted to make their own minds up, and they need the wise, benign people in government to do it for them.
They can be enjoyed in moderation, but you cannot, there's no benefit to cigarettes at all. You cannot enjoy it in moderation without risk. And that's why something like heroin, crack, cocaine, those are all illegal because they're so damaging to your health. Smoking is the biggest killer in England.
Cristo, you wanted to come in there, sorry.
No, I'm just saying that is, I think, the most compelling argument that Christopher is making, is that to what extent is this the role of government? Is it to advise and keep advising people, look, cigarettes are bad, it's your choice? Or is would this lead to the government thinking, well, look, we've got away with it with cigarettes, what about motorbikes? What about any kind of risky behaviour? And bearing in mind, I have a personal campaign against 15 different signs on escalators telling us the ways in which we're going to die. I wonder whether, it's true. You walk into a station, you get constant announcements, be careful, it's slippery, be careful, you might fall over. Is this yet another string to that bow that would give the government permission to keep going down that road? So I am compelled by that argument.
OK, Christopher, stay with us. We're going to take some calls now. Laura from Tyne and Wear, what's your views on this? Do you think this is maybe a sort of out-of-the-box thinking for Rishi Sunak to try something new?
I think it might be like a vote-grabbing thing. But I definitely, you mentioned before that people might have the rights taken away. But I definitely think that people who smoke take my rights to breathe fresh air away. And I've seen quite a lot of people in the high street, they're smoking over the babies and in prams, vaping with babies in prams, and that's taking their rights away.
Well, it's a really, really interesting point you make, and it goes back to something that Christopher said, that, we have laws, but the laws are to protect other people. Well, I mean, cigarettes do infringe on somebody else's liberties, don't they? If I'm in a pub garden and I'm with my child and somebody smokes they're completely within their rights at the moment to smoke if that's an area in which they can do so. But they're infringing my right to breathe clean air.
If you're asking me, yeah, look, I mean, there's always going to be clashes of rights in society, and it's important that we just don't let one group completely dominate the other. We've had an enormous amount of anti-smoking regulation and taxation over the course of several decades. It's supposed to put that right. We have obviously a very comprehensive smoking ban's been in place for 16 years, but you have to balance people's rights in the society. You don't just allow the majority to completely crush the minority, which is what's being suggested here by the total prohibition of cigarettes. I can't even really believe we're talking about this. I hope it's not a serious proposal. I haven't actually seen anything from the government. I think maybe they're just flying a kite. to see, smoke out the prohibitionists in society, I suppose.
Christopher, what did you think? Were you broadly in favour in 2007 of the smoking ban? And when I say smoking ban, I mean in terms of in public places, indoors.
No, I wasn't in favour of it at all. I thought it was a gross overreach. And my view is that if you own a pub and you run a pub, it should be your decision whether you allow smoking there. No problem, obviously. They want to ban smoking unilaterally, but that should be down to the owner of the business, and you should let the market decide.
Christopher, are you a smoker? Do you smoke?
No, I used to be, and I'm not one of these smokers who pretends I didn't enjoy it either. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I vape, which fortunately I enjoy just as much.
Why did you give up?
I switched to vaping about 10 years ago.
Why? Why did you make that change?
It's cheaper and healthier.
Absolutely. How do you feel about people who smoke at home around children on a daily basis?
I'd sooner they didn't do it. I don't see how you can bring in a law against that particularly.
But you can. They've
but
done
yeah,
that in New
there's
Zealand.
very few people do that nowadays. People seem to be very kind of cognizant of the risks and extremely aware.
I think that's really optimistic.
Laura was just saying that they witness people smoking around children quite regularly, and I think, you know, if you're smoking outside and a child walks past, what are you going to do? You can't run away. Steve from Kent, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a good idea? Is it the right approach? Perhaps just tax them even more heavily so they become completely unaffordable?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is my side of it is with the tax. There's a lot of taxes paid on cigarettes. If he bans the cigarettes and the smoking, where are they going to make that tax up?
Well,
he's already on about taxing clothes, which is another part of your programme.
We'll come to that later. Call us back on that, Steve.
Yeah.
But I suppose what they're thinking is, if they get rid of cigarettes, sure, they won't get the tax on the cigarettes, but they also won't have the costs involved. They won't have the visits to the NHS. They won't have the cancers. They won't have all the other things they have to pay for when it comes to somebody that's smoking. So it may balance itself out, Steve.
Well, I actually gave up smoking 17 years ago.
Well done.
And 6 weeks after that, I had a massive heart attack. Whether that was linked with that or not, I don't know.
Well, you think it would be linked to giving up cigarettes?
Quite possibly. Like I said, it might just be a coincidence, but that's what happened to me 6 weeks after, massive heart attack, triple bypass.
What did the doctors say?
They didn't actually say anything, whether it was connected or not. But, I mean, my partner smokes. She vapes as well, but she will go outside and smoke. Mm-hmm. So, because she knows I don't particularly like it.
And Fedis, can I just say that most smokers I know are incredibly considerate about that. Now, can I just make one other really quick point? In sociology, you learn actually that that smoking as well, to a lot of people who are on the lower income scale, who you would consider maybe working class, if that's even a thing anymore, that a lot of the time they feel that that's the only thing they have for themselves as well. It's their only thing. They've got, you know, problems with the kids, they've got very little income, they've got, you know, stressed from doing X, Y and Z all day, and smoking is the only thing they get to do just for them. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but I think that that's a factor as well that would be taken away from people.
All right, well, Steve, thank you very much for your call. Ivan from Stoke-on-Trent, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I was a very heavy smoker for quite a number of years, and I think it should be banned. I don't think that that the children should be put in the place, or young people should be put in place where they can buy these things.
But Christopher, don't we live in a free society? Isn't this just...
Yeah, we do live in a free society, but giving people the choice and allowing people to buy cigarettes that might cost them their lives, I think we should draw the line at that.
But, you know, anything we do in life could cost us we get in a car, that could cost us a life. We drink alcohol, if we drink too much of it, that could cost us our life. We go rock climbing, that could cost us our life. We make these decisions in a free society all the time, and it's benefits outweighing risks, and we're expected as adults to be able to weigh that up in a well-informed manner. Isn't this just the government interfering in a way that they shouldn't? I mean, where is it going to stop? Are they going to ban alcohol? Are they going to ban you from being able to rock climb, from playing rugby, from going skiing, from deep sea diving, whatever it is that you want to do?
Well, if you smoke, the smoking itself can ban you from going rock climbing and ban you from playing rugby
Yeah, but it's your
and ban you
decision.
for playing football because it affects your health that much. If you do smoke, then it's doing exactly the same thing.
But Ivan, it's your
And-
decision. It's your decision to make on whether you want to do that or not.
Yes, I agree with that. That is something in the argument. But when you've done it for so long and you realise what it can do to you and you can feel what it's doing to you as you go through your life, we should have something there to try and mitigate the damage that it does to the children. I think they should be educated more in one thing about it. A lot of the young people now don't realise what damage it's going to do to the bodies over the years. I smoked until I was 40. I had two incidents where when I got up in the morning and started coughing, I coughed until I thought my head was going to burst.
Oh,
I had a strangulated hernia.
You're not painting, Ivan, you're not painting a pretty picture, which many long-term smokers don't over this habit. Christopher, what would you say to Ivan, who thinks it's just a terrible habit and we need to do all we can to stop the children from getting involved in it?
Well, I'd just say, frankly, it's none of Ivan's business. You know, the only stakeholders in this debate are the people who are smoking. Potentially the people in years to come who might decide as adults they want to start smoking. Look, there isn't an economic argument for this. Smokers do pay more tax than they withdraw in terms of the NHS. And when you say to people, look, there's a slippery slope here, and why don't we ban alcohol, why don't we ban motorcycling and so on, all they can really come back to say is, actually, I quite like alcohol and I don't like smoking. Well, that's no basis for legislation and no basis for prohibition, in my view.
Interesting. Isabel from Hampshire, what's your views on this?
Oh, hello. Yes. Well, I think the whole thing's absolutely ridiculous. When I was 15, I used to pinch my mother's cigarettes out of her handbag and have a crafty fag round the corner.
Why?
I'm sure she knew. But I don't smoke. I don't smoke now.
But Isabel, it's interesting just why you did that, because you're doing that in a situation where you're not with friends, so it's not peer pressure that's making you do that, that's compelling you to steal one of your mum's cigarettes.
No, it's me. It was fun to pinch her cigarettes and have a smoke. It's the sort of thing that you shouldn't be doing.
So,
but
I suppose with that logic, then this wouldn't actually help, because the more you restrict something and the more you ban it, the more interested children will be in it, and it will become
absolutely
something that they're interested in. Isabel. Oh, you've gone. Cherry, I'll put that to you, actually, because you've got children. The more you restrict it, the more likely they are to think, this might be for me.
With these measures in place, the cigarettes won't even be in the handbag for them to take.
Okay, but
they won't be around. They'll be gone. They'll be
But they'll always get hold of them. Someone will always be able to nick them from their parents.
So hard. Like, I don't have, Class A drugs in my handbag, right? So they're not around. They're just not around because they're illegal. They're not condoned by society.
But illegal doesn't mean...
They're really hard to get hold of.
By your logic, no one would ever be able to get hold of Class C drugs, and of course they can. I'm afraid to say,
but to make it as hard as possible for people to get hold of them is the right option.
I think today's debate has actually erred me on the side of the ban being a bad idea. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's government. I think it's overreach by government.
Well, we're going to have to draw it to a close there. Christopher Snowdon, thank you very much for joining us for that debate. Thank you for all your calls as well.